Welcome to, I believe it's week eight. We're talking about the Adductor Magnus. So basically the Adductor Magnus is the long inner thigh muscle. It starts at the sitting bones and then it goes down the inside of the thigh and it's on the back of the femur. So why is it important? It's important because it helps give the leg stability. It's so easy to see when people have very tight inner thigh muscles, because if they sit cross-legged, their knees are up to their ears. And if they attempt Baddha Konasana, which is cobbler's pose, their knees would be up really high. So there's a couple ways to help them work on this. When students first come into my class, one of the things I try to help them to do is to sit on, I don't have very good cushions or bolsters here, but to prop a couple cushions up, because as you can see when I sit down, they kind of smush down here. Or fold some blankets into a rectangular kind of fashion so that they can sit more comfortably on it. Because when the hips are tight, it's better to raise, when the inner thighs are tight, it's better to raise the hips up, trying to meet the same height as the knees. And that's really good for meditation as well. That's why they've developed those meditation cushions to help with that. Or even for meditation, sitting in chairs is probably more beneficial because it's such a struggle and a strain to sit like this with the knees up higher. One of the ways I like to connect to the Adductor Magnus is by using a block. So I will have students do some core exercises to help develop that core stability, as well as work your inner thighs, those adductor muscles. So you could take a block and place it right between your thighs, and simply, but not on the knees, because you don't want to put extra stress on the knees. So you lift up the spine, and then you'd start to hinge back. So this is a very nice, easy, fairly easy, I should say, core strengthening muscle. Shoulders back and down, and then the arms could reach forward. All the while, ankles and knees are about hip width, or the same width of the block, and you're trying to really squeeze the thighs into the block. So students can even keep their hands on the thighs, but you want to try to maintain that long spine. And I do this for a little bit, and I try to have them relax their shoulders, and I try to remind them to breathe. And what feels delicious when you come out of this pose is when you sit up and you bring the soles of the feet together. And then you sit up tall, slide shoulders down the back, and start to lean forward, because you really get a good stretch in the Adductor Magnus. So skipping ahead to the facilitated stretching, since we are now talking about Baddha Konasana, I would have the students bring their hands to the shins. It's just kind of a nice way, wherever they want on the shins. Without leaning forward, draw the hands into the shins. That helps them to sit up tall. You get into those erector spinae muscles, but that's further in the future. Just a little hint now. Shoulders back and down, and you start to bend at the elbows. And now a lot of people may not go far, and that's completely fine. I like to have people look at their toes, because otherwise they're trying to reach the chin forward, and that adds stress and strain in the back of the neck. So when you have them look down at their toes, that brings the chin down. It also helps to align the neck, head, and rest of the spine. All right, so you bring your forearms down and try to lift your thighs into those forearms without allowing the forearms to move. So now you're engaging, you're contracting those inner thigh muscles again, those adductor muscles. So all the while you're breathing, you only go about 20%, and you hold it for approximately 8 counts. Then you'd relax the legs, you'd sit up tall again, and maybe try to bring the feet in a tiny bit closer. And you'd be surprised. You'd be able to bring the feet in, maybe it's a fraction of an inch, but that's still a fraction of an inch further than where you were. So again, sitting up tall, same thing. Sit up tall, start to hinge forward, just engaging those bicep muscles. So the elbows are bending, biceps are engaging, and look down at the toes. Again, forearms stay down, or some people, it's too much and they use their hands. So hands, they stay where they are, and you lift the legs, you contract the adductors, shoulders away from the ears. Don't stop breathing. Again, only about 20%, nothing more. Hold for approximately 8 seconds. So I would encourage them to have that nice, smooth, deep belly breathing. That's something they could focus on. Something fairly easy to do right now. And then go ahead and release the legs. Sit up tall. And then just one more time, this one's a quick one. You draw the feet in. They may come in a little bit more, they may not here, and that's okay. And then you bend at the elbows and you fold forward. This time, you don't lift the legs up, you just have them try to enjoy the stretch. All right. So, and then you could hold for, about 5 good breaths here. All right, and then go ahead, come all the way up and lift. Have them bring the hands to the knees and have them help their legs up. Okay, so now we're kind of have more of a connection to the inner thigh muscles. The other great stretch that Dr. Ray Long talks about to help awaken the pose is on page 87, and it's the Upavista Konasana, and that's where the legs are wide. Well, this is very, very difficult for someone who has inner thigh tightness. So what I like to do is have them bring one foot in and just work on stretching out one thigh at a time. That helps immensely. And you could even try it for yourself. It just feels so good, just doing one leg at a time. And then hands just behind the knees and start to hinge forward. Try to reach your chest to the wall in front of you. Also try to have the extended leg, that foot flexed, and have the thigh rotated from the hip. So it's an internal rotation so that the toes point upwards. And try to keep lengthening the spine. The hands could stay here, or maybe the hands walk out in front. So at this point, the hands could be used for support to keep you lifted, or for the more flexible people, they could be used as leverage. So there's that middle point where you place your hands. So sometimes it's nice for me, because I do have more flexible inner thigh muscles, the adductor muscles. It's good to just kind of extend the arms out, because then I get a deeper stretch, and I still feel safe and not like I'm going to fall over or pull anything. And then when you're done with the pose, start to walk the hands in, so you're not using your back, you're using your arms. You don't want to put extra strain on the back. And then come back up. And then you could cross the legs and just simply switch sides. And start to hinge forward. Again, support or leverage, whatever makes sense. And it's also kind of nice for the more flexible people to lower the elbows down. If there's some people that are really rounding, you can use a block, press into the block, and that helps them to lengthen the spine. But again, this is a practice for each and every one of us daily, and we're evolving. So we continuously start to learn more things about ourselves, and with that we're able to share our knowledge and wisdom with others. So the last thing I'd like to tell you about, actually two last things, is here he talks about contracting the adductor magnus in the Parivrita Parshvanasana, which is revolve side angle pose. So I'm going to use blocks to kind of show what to do, or where to have emphasis. So pretend like these blocks are stoppers and they can't be moved. And they're going to go right in between the feet, and hopefully people could use their imagination here. So, alright, so when you come into this, I'm not stretched out this morning at all. You would obviously twist, and to go into it deeper, attempt to press your feet into the stoppers. That really contracts the adductor magnus. You also want to lengthen the spine, and then maybe the top arm lifts and maybe the bicep comes by the ear, all the while trying to squeeze the inner thigh muscles, trying to contract them, attempting to drag them in towards the blocks. You could also do that in revolved triangle and attempt to drag the feet in. That helps to square the hips. It really helps to stabilize the pose. You could even use that in crescent, attempting to drag those thighs in. So that connects the pectineus, and it also helps to connect and contract the adductor magnus group. Lastly, when you are in the different poses, I like to have students press down into their big toes. So if you're in Virabhadrasana 1, inner thigh muscle squeeze, so attempt to drag the feet into the blocks, as well as press the big toes down as well as the outsides of the feet. So when you press the big toes down, that helps to draw the thigh, the knee, more in towards the midline. But then you want to watch some people, because some people might not have a mind-body connection. So sometimes their knees might fall more in, and you just want to go over, if you're a teacher, and adjust them. If you're a student, you just want to be able to look at your body. It's okay to look at your body in poses during a class. Actually, it's encouraged. So I hope all this stuff helps you. I think I've covered everything. So weakness in this, it's difficult to squeeze the inner thighs together. Tightness, it's hard to have the legs wide. But weakness, again, you could use a block between the inner thighs. And when they're tight, you could do one leg at a time. So any questions, please feel free to get a hold of me. Try this throughout the week, or the rest of the week, sorry that this is delayed, in your own personal practice, just to have a better connection to the Adductor Magnus group. So I hope this helps. Thank you. Namaste.